pizza?
No.
Hold it! Hold it! Drop the detonator. Drop the detonator.
Shoot me. She dies. Shoot me. Go ahead. Fuck it, we can all go. That's cool.
That's not what happens. What will happen is I will put a round at 2,700 feet per second into the medulla at the base of your brain, and you will be dead from the neck down before your body knows it. Your finger won't even twitch. Only you get dead. So tell me, sport, do you believe that?
Hey.
Hello and welcome to another day in paradise. Today I pose the question, should you change your name to an African name? If you are a diasporan, an African diasporan with a Western name? That's the question I pose to you today. I want to get into this, but first I'm going to please ask you to like, subscribe, share and click the bell notification. John Taylor Fitzgerald Floyd Jefferson Williams. So what is that? Is that an English football team? No. That's the names of some of our fallen comrades that have died at the hands of the Mzungu race soldiers over in the United States. Very westernized names. Matter of fact, if you didn't know those names and they hadn't been stuck on the TV a lot in the last few months, then you would probably make the assumption that those people were not African diasporans when all of them were. So, would you change your name to something which perhaps suited your ethnic origin or your background or history? This is no easy question to answer, simply because it's very difficult for diasporans who have had their history taken away from them to find a name which would fit them, or perhaps even find the name of their family members. It's almost impossible to do that. For instance, my last name is Bryan. Bryan with a Y. So this means it's a Celtic Bryan. Bryan's pretty much a Celtic name anyway, but with the Y it is definitively Celtic, more than likely Welsh in origin. Don't know if you know where Wales is, but Wales is in the west of the United Kingdom, of the mainland of the United Kingdom. Now ask yourself a question. Do I look fucking Welsh to you? Hey? Do I look in the slightest bit like I've come from the British Isles? Yes, I am aware that I sound like it. I was born and raised in England, so I speak like this. Yes, but do I look like it? No, I don't. Because my family did not originate from there. This should be painfully obvious. But where did we get that last name from? Where did we get our westernized names from? Well, most of us diasporans, ADOS, so-called ADOS, we got our westernized names from either the plantations where our forefathers worked on, or we adopted the name. So we adopted the name of the region where we came from in the diaspora, if it was a colony. So there are many parishes in Jamaica where my family came from, and those parishes are obviously named after the last names of noble, so-called noble people, rich people, slave owners essentially, who who called these areas, these parishes that so-called, they were named after them specifically. So when we were freed, a lot of us adopted the names of those parishes. A lot of us were given the names from the slave owners, directly from the slave owners. So it's, one way or another, it's not likely that if you have a westernized last name and you're an African diasporan, it's not likely that it's come from a good place. It's not come from a good person anyway. Now, I always found it weird that we know that these names didn't come from a good place, yet we embrace them and we keep them. Like they mean something, like we need to pass it on through our family, like we need to, how do I say this in a nice way? Like we need to infect the rest of our family with what happened to us historically over the last 500 years. It's like we're being branded still to this day. Not physically this time, but metaphorically. Now, there are notable people that knew this and wouldn't take it and essentially changed their name, legally changed their name to get rid of the westernized normally surname. So normally we in the diaspora have surnames that have been handed down to us. The most notorious of these people was Malcolm X, whose name was originally Malcolm Little, and he changed it to Malcolm X, and then I believe he got himself, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think his last name was Shabazz in the end, changed it again. So he changed his name twice. And that should be normal, right? That should be the way it should be, right? We should, as we get along in life and we learn, we should be able to have a bit of leeway, a bit of room to be a bit more dynamic and change our names. But it's not normal to do that in the West. Matter of fact, it's shunned. The only way you can change your name in the West, well, you can change your name in any other circumstance, but the only way you can change your name in the West and eyebrows aren't raised is if you got married and you're a woman. Then that's normal. But anything else, people will, what's that about? They've done everything in their power to make sure that people are deterred from changing their name. So they've done things like made it hard for you to get credit if you change it, and so forth. It just brings your credit rating down a little bit because all of a sudden you've changed your name. So stuff like that. It's done but frowned upon here in Europe, unless you're getting married. But once again, we're not European and we shouldn't act this way. We shouldn't act as if we are from here, right? We know we're not from here. We know this already. So why keep this name? Thing is though, we're not Arabs either, are we? We're Arabs? No, we're not. We're not Arabs. So why give ourselves Muslim names? Why give our names like give ourselves names like Shabazz and Ali, of course, Muhammad Ali? Why would we give ourselves these names for? That, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, okay? Malcolm X and Cassius Clay at that time, his original name, At the time, they didn't have the luxury that we had. They didn't have the ability to open up a device and have a wealth of information about their own history and their own background at their fingertips almost instantly. Okay, but we do have this ability to search and our background and our history, and we should use this. I think we should do everything in our power, regardless of whether we even want to change our name or not. We should always do everything in our power to research our history. It's really important, not just for us, but for the next generation and the generation afterwards. I think with enough research done, once you know yourself enough, you can go into that next phase of actually looking for a new name. So how do you find a new name? Well, there are a number of different ways you can do this. So you could just choose one. Choose any African name, okay? I would be against this. I was going to do this at one point. I was going to do this until I sat my lazy ass down and did the research. Once I did the research, I was able to find a really cool name that would suit me, which wasn't just about Africa, but specifically about where the tribe settled in Jamaica. So it was a brilliant name. I'm not going to tell everybody now, but let's just say that it's a good name, which, you know, I will use in the future. So you could give yourself any other name. You could do that, but I would actually be against doing something like that. I would say it'd probably even be better for you to just embrace your normal, your given westernized name than to just pick one African name out of the bag, because you don't know those names. You know, there's the name Askari. Askari is a Swahili name, but the Askaris, you know, they were African warriors, and everybody knows they were African warriors. That's who the Askaris were. But they fought against the Africans. They fought on the side of the Italians. So, so you could give yourself the name Askari, but people are going to look at you when you go to East Africa, and they're going to be like, oh, okay. So once again, you need to research your name. You know, don't just choose one out of the bag. I have someone who is subscribed to this channel who took out 3 years to research her family's history. 3 years. It's a long time, but obviously it's very rewarding, not just for her, but you got to realize that the other people, her descendants, are going to really appreciate that. Not her descendants. Yeah, her descendants. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So those who come after her, her children, her children's children, they're all going to appreciate that, and they're all going to be able to have that choice to get rid of the name that they adopted. Another way you can find a name for you, an African name, is by taking your last name now, finding out the meaning of it in English, and then changing it to the language that you are more likely from the area where you are more likely from. So let's say my name is Taylor, my last name is Taylor, and I wanted to change it. Then I would find out what tailor means, and we all know a tailor is someone who makes clothes, a seamstress or whatever. Just go into Google Translate. Let's say that I knew that my family was from Kenya or from Tanzania. I'd translate it into Swahili, the most widely spoken language in those countries, and then bingo, there you go, you have your last name. So you actually keep your last name, you just change it to an African name of the same meaning. There are many ways that you can do it, but You know, I just think that changing your last name or your name from a Mzungu last name into an Arabic name, so to speak, I mean, aren't you doing the exact same thing? I mean, didn't they do the exact same thing, perhaps even worse so than the Westerners when they came to Africa? Huh? Didn't they take part in the free-for-all, take what you can buffet that Africa was hosting at the time for the foreigners? Huh? Why would you want their name as well? So, you know, I can understand Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. At the time, they didn't have the resources that we have now, but nah, I wouldn't do that. Even if I was a Muslim, I wouldn't do that. Listen, I'm not going to jabber on. So if you really believe that Africa is your homeland, if you really believe that this is the place where your forefathers came from, if you really believe that Africa is your future and the future for your family, I would strongly suggest that you change your name into an African name. Why keep the name of the Mzungus who enslaved your family? Why do that? I think that giving your children and your children's children an African name is a gift that can, you know, it's the biggest gift that you could ever give them. It's bigger than gold, really, because you're giving them a home straight away, a home away from home. People are going to ask what their name means, and you're going to tell them, right? You're going to tell them about your history. It's a beautiful way of installing a sense of African pride inside of your children before they even go to Africa, if you are here in the diaspora. Especially if you give them a name which is given in the area which you are planning to repatriate to. So what do you plan to do? Do you plan to change your name if you at all? If you plan to go to repatriate to Africa or not? Do you plan to perhaps keep your original westernized name? Let me know in the comments section below. It'd be really nice to hear from you. So I'm going to leave it there, and I will see you in the next one. Ta-ra a bit.